Fox News. Right, should we crack on then?
Crack on.
Probably help if I can find the music. Where's the music, Kai? Where have you put it?
It's in multiple channels. It is in sound effects.
Ah, there we are.
What,
Sweet. Yeah. See, this is why we don't do it live, so all of these little fuck-ups don't get recorded.
This is why there's a woman in the show.
Or to spring clean all the channels.
That I like the very, very well played, Crypto.
Thank you. Right, cool. Yeah, let's play the theme tune. Here we go. It'd help if I pressed play, wouldn't it?
We understand that a plane crashed into the World Trade Center.
The number of UFO sightings in Canada is soaring tenfold over the past 25 years.
Tim Peeler swears he had an encounter with one of the most legendary beasts in history, Bigfoot.
You'd think that with the beautiful photographs that we have of our round blue planet, it would convince any doubt. But there are still some who insist that the world is flat.
Angry people who are convinced coronavirus is nothing more than a sinister plot to control their lives. But what do these conspiracy theorists know that we don't?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
And this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Why Would They Lie podcast. My name's Crypto, and I'm here with my co-host for the show, Kai. Hello, Kai. How are you?
Howdy, howdy. I'm good. How are you, Crypto?
Very well, thanks. Very good. Well rested. Looking forward to the show.
Same here.
Fantastic. And we have with us the soft and cuddly Quantum Eraser. How you doing?
Present.
Sorry?
Present. Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're going to be talking Flat Earth again today. I know we've already done the Flat Earth episode in episode 1 with Merrimon, which is awesome. We're going to look at it from a much more scientific, like a technical point of view today with Quantum Eraser. So we normally start the shows with kind of like a history of your interaction with the topic. So basically, QE, instead of actually talking about the topic itself, I would be very interested to know how you got into the topic. Like, what were your origins getting into Flat Earth?
Oh, this is going to be real short, man. You're going to have to love this. It's going to be concise. Well, into the Flat Earth topic was real easy. One day I was, on my guard. I think I was in a physics forum. I can't remember. It's been so long now. It was in one of the. I used to debate evolution in quite a bunch of various forums, whether they be physics forums and Christian forums. It was constantly all the time. So there was always evolutionists to burn. So I was sitting in there, and obviously one of the people they weren't speaking or typing. They would just sit back and probably watch me tear them apart with the second law of thermodynamics. And I guess they were just biding their time. And one day I was in this forum, and I had a debate against evolutionists. I brought up the second law, and this person PM'd me. And he made it real easy. He said, how can you have a vacuum next to gas pressure without a physical barrier? It took less than a Planck time, and I was a flat earther. Done.
Okay, so you actually started off. So it was actually evolution debates that brought you to the Flat Earth.
Yes, so I was already well schooled. I already knew all the pseudosciences, right? I already knew cosmology, astronomy, astrophysics, and outside of our genre, paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology, whatever that is. And yes, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics. I already know all those were pretender clowns. I already knew that. I just didn't. See, this seems it's kind of self-indicting because I already knew all that was pseudoscience. Einstein, Newton, all that nonsense, right? But the flat Earth wasn't on my radar. It just wasn't, right? And it's a self-indictment. You know, every time I look back on it, I say, you know, I should have known better. So that's the cross I have to bear.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Actually, it's because it's funny. Like you've just said that you basically flipped like a switch.
Quick.
From kind of, you know, thinking you lived on a globe to, oh, actually, no, it has to be flat because.
Oh, I knew it immediately.
Yeah. I had a similar kind of thing. It didn't take me like a second, but it was maybe 2 days, 3 days. And I was just like, well, these arguments are really good. And I kind of thought about it and I thought, I can't believe that I just accepted this worldview without ever actually critically analyzing it. And that was why I was kicking myself.
Okay, you want me to interview you?
Well, that's a very
Just got to be human. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that's a very interesting story, Kiwi. What I'm wondering, since you said you were on Christian discussion boards as well, were you kind of kicking yourself because there is a parallel to flat Earth in the Bible? It says in the beginning that there's some kind of physical barrier where you just like how did you feel when you found that the religious world was meeting with the scientific world as well?
Thanks, Kai. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was a double barrel. Because I had read the Bible. I've been studying scripture for many years. Now, I came across those passages, just like everyone does. And what I did was, I just blew right by them. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a double barrel indictment, both on the science front. And remember, Christianity is not a religion, not on the religious front, but on the creator side. He told us. And I wasn't seeing it.
Yeah. I have memories of when I was young and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to read the Bible. And you start at the beginning and just, you can't even get through the first chapters of Genesis because it's not lining up to what I was taught in school. So I'm just like reading firmament, waters above. And then it's almost like I would just disregard it after because you just have that disconnect right at the beginning if you're wearing heliocentric glasses. You're reading the book. So
yes. And I'm not trying to provide excuses. I mainly focused on eschatology. I kind of blew off. I didn't blow Genesis off, but I already knew, scientifically, that there is no possible way that you can have creation without a creator on every angle. I had every angle covered. So I didn't really spend a whole lot of time, evaluating or exegetically Genesis or anything like that. Like I said, my focus was more or less eschatology or the study of end times. Right? That's not an excuse because I still should have said, I ran by all the passages that I now have, stacked away. They're like, well, duh. Right. So I'm not trying to give myself an out here. I'm just trying to soften the blow a little bit.
Okay, so you went from kind of globe to flat Earth. You flicked, and then you were like, of course, second law of thermodynamics. How did that next year look?
It was troublesome on the textual format front in both the physics forums and the Christian forums. In one Christian forum, I was more or less, like one of the top dogs, the secret council against evolution in all the sciences. I was right up there. The website owner, it was pretty popular. The website owner, he kind of took a liking to me, because I was there for like 3 years. And I would just deconstruct evolutionists. You know the routine. And I was I was pretty much good to go. And one day, I brought the subject up. It was like the second day. It was the day after the gentleman challenged me with the second law and gas pressure without a container. It was that second day, and I wrote down, I can't even remember what topic it was. It's irrelevant anyway. But a whole bunch of us were in there, and I just put the question out. I said, listen, how can you have gas pressure without a container? I just said it that way. No context behind it. I just put it out there. I didn't say I was a flat earther or anything. I just put it on out there. And they were like bees buzzing around the hive. They already knew, right? Which I thought was strange because I never thought about it, right? But those guys were all over it. And they said, oh, what are you, a flat earther now? And I'll tell you what, it caught me by surprise. And ever since that moment, it only took, I think, 1 day after that or 2 days after that, I was banned from that forum. What had happened was, they started blocking me from threads. I'm sitting there, what the hell? What is going on here? So I messaged the website owner, and I started discussing with him. I said, listen, I didn't break any rules of the server. Back then, I was pretty polite. I just liked the discussion. I liked the intellectual discussion, even with evolutionists. But he was kind of standoffish, and he started getting a little aggressive. And then again, that surprised me. And I said, well, listen, like I said, again, I didn't break any rules. I just want to answer to my simple question right here. Can you answer that? And he goes, well, Danny Faulkner can answer it, and here's his book. Right? And I'm sitting there, why are you bringing Danny Faulkner into this? I said, can't you answer it? I'm not going to say who it was, because he's on a pretty famous radio show, and I don't want to drag him into it. It was a long time ago, and I've put it behind me. But I got pretty pissed that he posted this Danny Faulkner article. Then the next day, I was banned from the forum. They just said, I got an email, don't come back. Right? I said, all right. Danny Faulkner, Answers in Genesis, Mr. Flat Earth Debunker, right? So I called Answer in Genesis. I called his secretary. I said, can I speak to Danny Faulkner? And she said he was on vacation, but then he would be back in 3 days. And she gave me the email address. So I emailed him. I just said, hey, I heard you got the answers for these questions. So I gave him a bunch of questions. And he finally got back. And then he wrote back to me, and we got into an email debate where I drug him around by his short hairs. This was like, I'm telling you, this was within the first week. So May 15th, it was between May 15th and May 20th, 2016. How about that?
Okay, and how long after? So obviously you've just been banned from the forum. That was a few days after. How long after was the Danny Faulkner thing from when you'd become a flat earther?
5 days, 6 days.
5 days. Wow.
So yeah, I was the first one. I was the first one to run into Danny Faulkner. Yeah, way back in the day. He's just become semi-popular, in the flat earth circles. He jumped on 24/7 one day about, 6 or 7 months ago. But yeah, Danny and I still have all the contacts. I still have all those emails. So anytime that he wants to feel froggy, and like I said, that was back. I was green around the gills. He doesn't have a chance now.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. And so this was about 5 years ago, more or less.
2016, May 2016, middle of May 2016.
Yeah, more or less 5 years. Yep. Yeah, that's really interesting. So you had a bit of a debate with Danny Faulkner. What happened next?
Well, then I got banned from a lot of physics forums I was in, and then another Christian forum. I'm not going to state what it was, but I didn't. It wasn't official banning. It was like the mods were all over me, man. Any post that I would post, they were like, "Be careful," and I said, "What in the world is going on here?" All right. So I started PMing the mods and asking them questions directly. You know, get it out of the public. Let's deal with this mano a mano, right? They wouldn't do it. So I started putting them up against the wall. So that probably wasn't a good idea. And then I just got away from the text formats, right? I wasn't on YouTube yet. There was no Discord. In fact, I didn't even know it. Other than watching a YouTube video here now and again, I didn't know that there was like this community of YouTubers. So that kind of surprised me when I first come out here. But
do you mean like on the flat Earth side or on the globe side, or kind of both? Like
the flat Earth and the globe side community. When I come out here, and back then there was no censorship, right? So all you'd have to do was punch flat Earth into YouTube, and you'd get all these. They were open discussions, and everyone would have like an open debate. You could go ahead and join them, right? I didn't even have a microphone. I had to go get a microphone, right, and figure my way through it. And get on. And this was every day for hours at a time. If one VC was taken up in Google Hangouts, there was 30 other ones you can get involved in, right? So I started just jumping in there at first, just listening, because like I said, I was new. I didn't know how the arguments were going to go. And I was pretty surprised in the beginning on the vitriol, right? Because I wasn't in that mode yet. Follow?
Yeah, what just like the deep scorn that Globers seem to react to flat earthers with. Like they almost feel wounded by our opinions.
Oh, it was bad back then, man. I mean, I got called names that make a billy goat puke. Sniped, muted. This is on a daily basis, every single day.
Was it unusual for you to be? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kira.
No, and at some point, it took a while. Even though I lack patience, it still took a while. Now, I knew all those people I was listening to, because I would just sit back and listen. I already knew they were all pretender clowns. They're just Evo tards now in a ball tard costume. I already knew they were pretender clowns. So I just sat back and listened, and then there was a time that I said, okay, now it's time to start exposing these pretender clowns too. So then I started doing that, and that obviously they weren't too attracted to that. And they seemed, because I wasn't your regular everyday Joe flat earther, because I had serious science acumen, right? Not only academically, but studied on my own for years, right? We're talking professionally, you're talking over 25, like 30 years of actual science acumen. They're not ready for that, right? So it's like shooting hippos in a fishbowl. So I started picking them off one by one and challenging. No, I was still doing it. I was pretty polite back then. But it got to a point after a year or so, year and a half, that I started, I said, I've had about enough. Let me turn the tables. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah, Kai, did you want to ask something?
Oh, I was just going to ask, since you had been on the debating scene before, did it kind of catch you off guard to see how unusual debates over the shape of the Earth can be? It's just like a whole other level of hostile. Honestly, I haven't seen a debate that gets as wild as a flat Earth one. So what did you think as you entered into debating for the flat Earth?
Well, these weren't debates. These were flat out, all out brawls. And they're usually, back then, in the beginning, there was like 9 against 1, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I would get pissed because I'd be listening to the show on YouTube, and one flat earther who shouldn't have been in there, right, was getting just pummeled by 9 ball tarts, right? So I would get pretty upset. I'd want to defend their honor, but I couldn't get in, right? So that started to pile up, all the things that were said against other people when I knew that the people that were making those claims against maybe the unprepared flat earther were pretty vitriolic, right? So I wanted to set the record straight. So I jumped in as many hangouts as possible back in those days.
Okay.
That's where I got sort of the reputation back then. In fact, the nickname was Independent Variable John. That's what they used to call me in the beginning. Yeah, I'm serious. If you go back to the old timers, I think Indio may have been around back then, and ask them, they'll tell you straight up. I used to say, well, thank you. And every time they said it, I said, I knew you're a pretender clown, because if you're calling me independent variable, if you had an actual science acumen, you wouldn't be saying that. They were trying to use it in a pejorative, a derogatory way, right? Now, why would you do that? What are you, some type of dipshit? Because
Yeah,
I'm going to take you to the woodshed here, quick.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like if you're going to say that to someone, that they don't actually consider the independent variable to be a valid part of science, which is just ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could pretty much evaluate anyone within the first 15, 20 seconds and know exactly where they're at. Whether they are university trained, whether they had an actual science degree, not a pseudoscience degree. You know the pseudoscience degrees, I just told you what they were back there in the beginning. Right? I could tell right away. So it's easy.
Yeah, for sure. I did want to I just wanted to veer slightly into one of my favorite topics, which is logical fallacies. You're extremely good at pinpointing and not only pinpointing that a logical fallacy has been made, but the exact fallacy, which is something I really admire about, listening to you speak. Now I have to ask you, when do you feel like you became extremely proficient with logical fallacies? Was it kind of pre-evolution debating, after the evolution debating, or after the shape of the earth debating?
Middle of the evolution debate. If I had to do it all over again, I would study logical fallacies first. So it's interesting you brought that subject up, because a lot of people ask me about that. Now, I studied logic at university when you go through the philosophy classes, because I was interested in philosophy also. But I never really got into the other side of the coin, the logical fallacies. And I started listening to the Evotard arguments, and I'm sitting there, wait a second, this doesn't follow. Let me see what's going on here. So I'd write them out. I like to write things out, right? So I can see them. I'm a highly visual learner, right? So I'd write them all out and say, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I said, you know what? I'm going to start studying the most common logical fallacies used, right? There's about 30 of them, right? If you get into logical fallacies, there's about 5,000 of them. You got your formal and informal logical fallacies. However, most people, they don't even realize they're doing it, right? And they're just parroting what they've been taught or what they've been told. They don't realize that they're using fallacious reasoning. So what I started to do, okay, let me take the top 30 of them and let me study them. And it didn't take long, maybe 2 months. I pretty much had them all down. I'm kind of psychotic in that sense. When I get a hold of something, I have this addictive personality that I'll wear it to the bone. I'll just gnaw at it until I master it. So it took me about a month, 2 months max, every single day, right? Going over them. And once I mastered them, then I could hear them when people, I just anticipate them. Especially with evotards, right? They're gonna drop logical fallacies with every other breath. Because I've heard them for so many years, and when I started studying logical fallacies, I said, this is begging the question. They always use affirming the consequent. Affirming the consequent is like, it has no prejudice. Everyone uses it, right? And it just used rampantly in the flat Earth, globe Earth debate, mainly by globetards, right? It's a form of logical fallacy. It's real easy. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. It's a real train wreck, right? It's just the opposite of modus ponens. And denying the antecedent, you don't get that too much. That's usually an evolutionist type of thing. That's twisted sister of modus tollens. So it's the opposite of those formal arguments. But the informal fallacies, there's a ton of them, a metric ton. Like I said, I nipped them down to about 30, right? And once I mastered them, I was pretty much good to go.
Yeah, I think that was one of my main things when I first got into this. You know, similar to you, you start hearing these things and you know they're wrong, and you're just like, why are they wrong? And I think, especially when you're in this debate, you're debating these people who are like, they're claiming the high ground on logic and reason, and I think it really wounds them to point out their logical fallacies all the time. They really don't like that.
No, not at all. Well, I always told them, if you want to play lumberjack, then you're going to have to learn to handle your side of the log. So if you're not handling your side of the log, I'm going to take you to the woodshed. Now, you better have...
Yeah, I love it.
I don't have a problem. If you have a claim and you can support it coherently, logically, or scientifically, I have no problem with it. Go to town, right? But you better be very careful of the words that you use, because I'm paying really close attention.
Now, I did want to ask you specifically about your debate with Danny Faulkner. When he said go and watch a video or read a book of another person. Were you, as you'd already been debating kind of the evotards, were you already aware of the elephant hurling fallacy, and did you call him out for that?
No, well, I was already aware of elephant hurling. It wasn't a debate between me and Danny Faulkner. That was the gentleman that was in charge. He was the website owner that brought up Danny Faulkner to me. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that he did that, not Danny.
Okay. So I suppose the question is the same, but aimed at the website owner.
Yep, it is the same. Yeah, and I think I did say, I don't think you have to say it. I said, why are you bringing Danny Faulkner up? Why don't you just answer a simple question? There's no tricksies here. I'm not asking you for, differential geometry equations. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Simple question. Answer it. It doesn't take any... Once you start with the theatrics, I smell blood. Just answer the simple question. If you can't answer it, say you can't answer it.
Yeah, and if you're sensitive to answering it, then obviously there's a deeper kind of emotional reaction to the question.
Yep. And that was when Flat Earth had really started, I missed the 2015 part. Now, this was May 2016, so it had already had a grip in most of the forums, because I remember seeing a lot of people talking about Flat Earth. Now, I'd just blow it off. I wouldn't pay any attention. Now, some people would ask me, and I'd just divert away because I wanted the evolutionists, right? But it was pretty much entrenched, and everyone was really sensitive to it. Like I said, the example was the website owners, specifically that one, but other owners too, and the mods were briefed. That's for sure.
Okay, so yeah, that's really cool. So that was kind of the first. Would you say that encapsulates the first year, or was there any other kind of significant events in that first year?
Well, the first year, then I was on YouTube, and then Robert Pisano's show. Robert Pisano was pretty popular in the beginning back then. And I had just popped on, I didn't pop on the show, I pulled it up on YouTube and I was listening to it. And he was interviewing a Sohu scientist with NASA. And Robert was going through his points. Robert's former military, so I immediately was drawn to Robert because I'm ex-military myself. I'm retired military. And I just liked the way Robert went about doing things. I thought it was pretty funny. But he had the Sohu guy on talking about the sun, and right away into his battery of questions, the Sohu gentleman, or the scientist, I should say, quote unquote, he was like giving, Robert a watermelon hanging size curveball, and he even brought up, because Robert said he had a problem, and the scientist said, well, is that the second law of thermodynamics? And Robert just bypassed it because he had a certain battery of questions that he wanted to ask him, and he didn't catch on. Well, I caught on. I was screaming at the computer because this guy's just offering it up. Right? Usually they don't offer that stuff, right? But the sun is a there's many second law of thermodynamics violations with the sun, but he was going to go into it. Robert cut him off to get on to the next question. So I was beside myself. So I emailed Robert. I said, now I was a little bit more polite. I was thinking, what the hell is you doing, sir? Right? He was going to give you the hanging watermelon sized curveball. I'll jack that shit yard. Right? It was right out for you, but he didn't do it. And I explained to him what the second law, everything in his interview, how it went. And Robert's, I guess he realized, he goes, well, I better get you on the show. So,
oh, I see.
Yeah, that was the start of it. So then I was with Robert Robert and I did a bunch of shows. I don't remember exactly, maybe about for the next 8 months or so. And then Robert sort of died down because NASA got a hold of his little trick that he used to play, because he used to call. I'd just be sitting in there. He'd pull up his Skype, and then it'd get the directories for NASA, and then it'd just go down to directories, right? And just call them. And just whatever it was. Oh, this looks like an interesting one. Boom, call. Get him on the line. And let me tell you, Robert Pisano in the beginning, he was exposing these clowns left and right. If you go back to listen to some of those early interviews, I mean, he was really jacking it yard. But they kind of got a little heads up, a little alert to what was going on. And then they put out memos and stuff because they started asking him. He started calling. When he'd call, they'd ask, are you taping this? That's when I knew it was coming to an end. Because it seemed that NASA had put out like a, company letter that said, you better watch out. Am I still with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I thought the power went out for a second. They caught on to his little game, and that was the end of that. I knew it was going to die quick, and it did.
Wow.
Do you still have access to those kind of recordings from back then?
Yeah, in fact, Robert Pisano, his channel is still up with all those videos on his channel. Yep, they're still there.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, if you want to post a link to those, if you can find them, then I'll be more than happy to kind of.
You want me to go track down the link to his channel? It's Planete. Here, I'll do it. Planete.
Have to do it now. Just for listeners.
Hold on, since you asked. Boy, this was hard. Boy, I got it too. So hold on. Copy, and where are we at here? I'm in published episodes. How about guest communication? What about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Guest communication. This is Robert Pisano's channel, and all those videos are up. I would suggest to pull up the videos with the interview with the Hubble director. That is probably his best. But there's other great ones in there. Robert exposed, the satellites on balloons. He exposed Sophia and the same type of telescope that Hubble used. They're the exact same specs, right? Robert was a pioneer. Let me tell you, back in the beginning, he exposed all this stuff quickly. So I want to give a shout out to Robert because I think he was instrumental in moving the flat Earth forward in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I've been in this debate for 4 or 5 years and I wasn't aware about any of this stuff. So this is really cool information. I'll be catching up on these interviews for sure.
Yeah, this is great. It's funny what you said about how people act when you bring up the second law of thermodynamics, because I had my first debate, I guess you could say, with an expert, and that was my grandpa. He was a chemist for a long time, and then he was a professor at university. And I asked him 2 weeks ago, I was like, Grandpa, I have some questions for you about physics. And he looked at me like shocked, like, like, okay. And we got into gas pressure without a container, and he was like, you don't need gas pressure without a container. And I read him the definitions that you posted, and he was like, well, I've studied this for so long, we don't need to look at the definition. It was really funny, and he ended up getting really frustrated, because then, I talked to him about natural science and how I has to follow, like, everything you always say, like, follow the scientific method, and you have such a narrow view of science.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said you have such a narrow view of science, but he did start to get the gears turning when I just was really trying to break it down. I was like, okay, so gravity is supposedly like the weakest at the edge of the atmosphere, and that's where it's able to affect gas all of a sudden. And he was like, you're making good points, but I don't know. He's a super old dog, so I don't know if I can teach him any new tricks. But it was just I knew I had him when he was like, we don't need to look at the definition
Yeah,
of gas pressure.
Yep.
But,
yeah, and it's funny what you said about being accused of having a narrow view of science. The whole point of science is that it is narrow, because if it's too broad, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, he got really mad when I said that, what was it? Predictions and, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the word, but it's where you like make a simulation and to predict something. And I was like, that's not proving anything. That's not actually following the scientific method.
Model.
He was like, what about predictive models?
Yeah.
What? And simulations isn't science. And he was just like, he was like, whoever you're debating with has such a narrow view of science. And I was like, but you have to establish cause and effect. If you don't, then you have no idea what is actually going on.
He said it wrong. You have such a narrow view of natural science. See, he was equivocating. Right? He's bringing everything into science when it's not, because science is just knowledge. So anything can fit in. He wasn't being precise with his language.
Yeah.
You should probably bring him in here. We can have a little discussion, me and Mr. Chemist.
Well, he's Mormon, so he's very, very sensitive to...
Oh, poor baby.
I know. So I thought I would try, and he's super Christian too. So I wish I could tell him, because I think he would actually be extremely fascinated. There was a painting he painted across Utah Lake, and it's of these mountains and lights on the other side of the lake. And I wanted to tell him so badly that you just painted an amazing flat earth painting. And so I was like, oh, Grandpa, how far do you think the distance is from the lights across the water? He was looking at me like, why are you asking this question? But he's like, about 10 miles. I'm like, hey. So maybe I'll tell him one day, but we'll see.
Should have just whispered in his ear, it's flat.
Read Genesis and think about the second law.
So QE, I just wanted to move on. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Just first of all, do you prefer debating evotards or bulltards?
Doesn't matter.
You don't mind?
It doesn't matter.
Same thing.
They're all connected. It's connected. Evolution is connected with the fairy tale space. the fairy tale trillions of light years away or billions or whatever they say. It all goes hand in hand. The Big Bang fairy tale fallacy. All of it is connected. Flat Earth, everything. It's all connected. So I'm an equal opportunity ass whooper.
You're like black, white, male, female.
Doesn't matter.
Care.
Doesn't
Whip
matter.
your ass.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, but I tend to try to stay away from the younger generation. From kids and stuff. Sometimes I screw up and I don't assess the situation correctly, and it's somebody, a high schooler. I don't feel comfortable. That's not my audience. I was never good with that audience. My audience is more older, 30 or older.
Okay. And the other question I had for you is, what is your favorite, first of all, your favorite evolution argument to kind of argue against, and then the same for the ball Earth?
Well, it got real. I noticed this really quick in my evolution debates that these guys don't know what it is. So that's my favorite art. See, I used to chase down all the little arguments they had. I can't even remember. What are they? Vestigial structures, homology, all their little genetic drift, all that. I used to chase all those arguments down. Bacteria, what was it? Antibiotic resistance. I used to chase it because I liked it, because my background's in biochemistry, so I like that. But I got sick and tired of doing it over and over and over again. So, and I realized really early on in the game that they couldn't define the damn thing. So that's my favorite argument. I just kill it quick. So this is how it usually goes. I'm an evolutionist. Really? Can you define evolution, then provide the scientific theory, and I need citation? That's the end of the Evo-tard argument. Because the scientific theory of evolution doesn't exist. So, and then I'd compromise them real quick on their science acumen, because I'd say, do you even know what a scientific theory is? I mean, an actual one. Evolution is supposed to be the most validated scientific theory in the history of science, and you can't give it to me, number one. Number two, you don't even know what a scientific theory is.
Do they actually say that? I've never heard anyone say so arrogantly that their field of study is the most scientifically validated.
You never heard that about evolution, dude?
No.
If I had a penny for every time I heard that, I wouldn't be on your podcast right now.
Wow.
Well, you might be, but you'd be obviously donating your time rather than...
This would be philanthropic work.
Right. Kind of is anyway, isn't it? But yeah, for sure.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because just it doesn't seem like even from someone who's like into the subject, you would have to think, well, it's kind of a leap of faith, even if you think it's true, right?
Yeah.
So
there isn't a favorite. Any argument that they bring up, I'm going right to define it first, because what you'll find is with evolutionists, they'll go right into like a debate or a discussion, already assuming evolution is true. They start providing evidence, the so-called evidence that they have. Well, if you don't define that thing that you're providing evidence for, then all evidence is evidence for what you're talking about. So I caught on to that real quick. I said, whoa, wait a second. That doesn't have anything to do with your fairy tale. Can you define it? So let's establish, if I walk into a courtroom, I'm trying to prove a banana, right? I have to define that monkey first and then provide evidence of it, right? What you're doing is you're just assuming or presuming that evolution exists, whatever that may be. Nobody knows. No one still knows. I haven't got a definition in 15 years, by the way, or the scientific theory. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. And I know that. So they're kind of dead, right? So you have to define the thing that you're providing evidence for. I'm telling you, listen to any evolution debate, and they'll start providing evidence right out of the gate. So everything can be evidence for your fairy tale you haven't defined yet. Every single time, sir. And ma'ams. You think I'm kidding?
Yeah, because if you haven't defined it, then of course you can assign anything that you say as evidence because there's no definition. Precisely. Yeah, I see. I mean, I actually don't even know what you would call that fallacy. But it's a very interesting.
It's begging the question. It's a simple begging the question.
Oh yeah, at the start it's the begging the question fallacy. But what I mean is like the deliberately not defining something in order to broaden which evidence applies to the non-defined thing.
It's just an ambiguity. Any ambiguity fallacy will fit. Because most are either ambiguity fallacies, or there's another one. I can't think of it right now, but most of them are ambiguity. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of your timings, so we're approaching the hour.
You're fine.
We finish on
You're
the
fine.
hour?
Just go.
We're good. Well, should we give it another 5 minutes and then we'll call it a day?
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did want to ask you as well. What is your favorite logical fallacy to point out to people?
Well, with the evolutionists, it's denying the antecedent, but you're not going to get that fallacy here. I would probably what my favorite one. A lot of people currently, it's either the fallacy of composition or fallacy of division is getting quite popular, and people aren't picking up on it. Fallacy of composition is it's inferring that something is true of the whole from the fact that it's true of some part of the whole. Example, observational science or observation. They'll say, well, isn't observation part of science? Yeah, but it's not the whole damn thing. It's only the first part of it, observing a phenomenon to be specific, right? So what they're inferring of the whole, that something is true of the whole from the fact that observation is merely just part of the whole, right? Because you have hypothesis construction and experiment. So that's a textbook fallacy of composition. That's one of my favorites because they're all using it now. And its twisted little inverted sister is the fallacy of division. It's inferring that something is true of one or more of the parts from the fact that it is true of the whole, right? So it's just flipped. A classic example, atoms are natural. Everything is made of atoms, therefore everything is natural, right? If you hear it, you intuitively know that there's something wrong with it, right? But you just can't put your finger on it. So I would have to say those two are standing out currently. How about that?
Yeah, that's I really enjoyed that. I think that's a great answer. It's interesting because you talked about another one earlier, the P therefore Q, Q therefore P, and I like to just give people like really easy examples as to why this is ridiculous. So you might say like P, I ate 10 cheeseburgers, therefore Q, I'm full.
Yes.
Q, I'm full, therefore I ate 10 cheeseburgers.
Yes.
It's like, obviously you could have eaten pizza or something else.
Exactly.
And so just pointing out these obvious kind of, basic examples. When I was, before I really got into this, I used to think, oh yeah, they'll get this. This makes sense. Often you say it and then it'll be like you never said anything. Just like, I swear I just explained what was wrong with your logic.
Hey, Crypto, give me 10 seconds. Somebody's banging on my door. 1 second.
All good. Do 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 do. That's actually all I know of that tune.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm back.
Excuse for a crypto serenade.
All right. I was serenading QE, but he left.
I'm back.
Yeah. So we were just talking about kind of like it's really funny. Like I've seen you struggle with this as well. Not that you're struggling to explain it, but it's like you'll explain to someone like not only what the logical fallacy is that they just used, but also like a really simple real world example of why it's ridiculous. And they just don't get it. And they come at you with the same fallacy 30 seconds later. You never explained it.
Yeah. Another insidious one is the argument from silence. It's a real creepy one, and if you're not ready for it, right? This is Shamalama Gamma Panda Ding Dong. He's used this forever, and he even says it's one of his favorite arguments. You numpty dipshit, it's a fallacy. He'll say, if we have millions of experts in the second law of thermodynamics, then why hasn't anyone said anything? That's textbook argument from silence fallacy. Just an error in reasoning. So that's an easy one, right? It's pretty insidious. If you're not ready for it, then it'll get you. You'll say, well, that makes sense. No, it's fallacious.
Yeah.
Then you got your typical straw man. You guys know straw man. They're creating an argument that's not your actual position, right? Everyone knows that. Red herring, get a lot of that, right? It's red herring's just a diversion. It's irrelevant. They'll bring something irrelevant in onto another topic. It's just a distraction, just how it sounds, right?
Yeah.
Equivocation.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
I love these fallacies, man.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah.
Equivocation is another one that comes up a lot, and I hear it a lot with gravity. Because to equivocate is it's textbook. It's known for it's called bait and switch, right? They take a term and they use two different meanings of that term in the same argument. Right? So they'll go back and forth between, they don't even are aware of it. They'll go back and forth between Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian gravity and use two different definitions for the term gravity. That's a textbook bait and switch equivocation fallacy.
Yeah, they do that all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say on the similar theme, people will deliberately swap the theory with the law, or at least their understanding of the theory and their understanding.
Yeah, that's not equivocation. Remember, equivocation is with two different, they'll use a term or a phrase in two different sentences or senses within the same argument. So it's only one term with two different meanings. Follow?
Oh yeah, for sure. But of course, no, I already knew that, but they'll still just call it gravity. And that's kind of what I mean.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
They won't refer to them as the law or the theory. They'll just say gravity.
Well, they don't know the difference between law and theory either. So that usually,
of course,
that's another good little topic. Because I usually get people, especially university trained people, they're not ready for this because they've been indoctrinated. They haven't thought this through. That natural law, like the second law of thermodynamics, all the laws of thermodynamics, that's not science. That has nothing to do with science whatsoever. Natural laws are just mere descriptions of the whats and the is's. Not that they're not true. They are true, but they're just descriptions of the whats and the is's. There's no cause and effect. There's no experiment with these guys, right? As opposed to a scientific theory, which has to go through the scientific method, and it's an explanation. So the key differences is between the two is natural laws are mere descriptions, while scientific theories go through the scientific method and they're explanations of the how and why of a cause and effect relationship. So one's science, one's natural science, one's not. That gets them, I'm telling you. I had some serious falling out of chemists, mainly chemists, have a big problem with this. But sorry. And then it embarrasses them. You know what? Here's a big problem with educated people. And some people that probably will stay away from this argument. If they find me out here, they'll stay away. They'll wait till I leave. See, they got their plaque on their wall that tells them they're a scientist. Well, I just tear that thing down. If you're an astronomer, cosmologist, astrophysicist, paleontologist, archaeologist, anthropologist, evolution, oh, good Lord, gird your loins if you're an evolutionary biologist. Theoretical physicist, that 250 G's you dropped on that plaque on your wall, I'm burning that down. Sorry. So a lot of people can't handle that. You'll hear it in their voice too. I know. I've heard it many times. I have a special contempt for people that pretend to clown and try to use their, how would you say, credentials against people that are not educated. I will, you have not seen Medieval. I'll get Medieval on them. So it's just my nature. So the fraud or the lies, and especially from credentialed people that should know better, I hold them to a higher standard. Follow?
Yeah, it's almost, yeah, of course, it's almost as if they're picking on prey,
yes,
sort of thing, because they're saying, oh, well, they're not bright enough to kind of point out, you know, what I'm doing, so I'm going to do it for them, and I'll avoid the people who can point it out, you know. I agree with you. I think that's absolutely disgusting, and you see it with these clowns on TV. Like, I mean, one of my friends has just done an astrophysics degree, which
Yeah.
I was very quick to point out isn't science. And then about 2 minutes later, he brought up Bill Nye, and I said, well, he's also not a scientist. And we had a little bit of an argument, and eventually he actually looked up Bill Nye and realized he was an engineer, which nothing wrong with being an engineer, but you know, it's not the same. Yeah, and I did want to ask QE, just going into, because you said very specifically that chemists have a problem with this. Why do you suppose it's mainly chemists in your experience?
I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just coincidence that it's been 3 chemists that I've run into with this. I'm not saying that other people don't have a problem with it. Maybe I just haven't run into them yet. But just coincidentally, it's been 3 chemists. I don't think there's anything there.
So you think maybe a couple of anthropologists are lurking around the corner?
No, they ain't coming in. They're even worse than they're. I don't know how you would, you know, echelon the pseudosciences as probably evolutionary biology at the bottom. They're all hovering around the negative territory and coherency. So I don't know. I treat them with the same contempt.
Now, Kai, I've got one more kind of broad question to ask QE. Have you got anything you wanted to ask before I crack on?
Who is your favorite person that you've ever debated regarding the shape of the Earth?
Oh, the shape of the Earth. That's a great question. My favorite that I liked?
I don't know. Favorite is a broad term. It could have been that you just destroyed them or enjoyed debating with them.
That's a heck of a good question. Yeah, I never thought about it. Every single debate or discussion or interaction I've had with globetards, they're all, I haven't found one that's not a pretender clown.
Mm-hmm.
They're just clowning. Now, I'm not into divining intents. That's not my business. I could care less. If you come out here and you're portraying yourself as somebody with knowledge and I catch you, what would Mick West? Okay, Mick West. How about that? Right? And that was on 24/7. I'll settle right there. How about that? That was a really good one.
Okay.
If you go on my channel, in the toe tags, you'll see Mick West smiling and waving at you. So that one, I guess that was really good because I got to rub his nose in it.
You'll have to check that one out.
You caught me there for a second until I thought of Mick. Hey, Mick, there's a fever in the funk house now.
Yeah, so I've got quite a broad question, and feel free to answer it. It's a two-part question. Feel free to answer it in any kind of way that you feel is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed when I was reading a lot into kind of specifically two of my interest areas of genetics and intelligence research, one thing I noticed is how people can't really tell the difference anymore between science and academia, almost to the point where in a lot of people's consciousness, science and academia are the same.
Yeah.
So the first part of my question was, how do you think science and academia became fused as one idea? And the second part of the question is there anything we can do to save science from academia?
Yeah, I don't know where it is. I think it came from that authority shell. Especially you see on TV, scientists say, or this study does this and this study does that. Well, that has a pretty good influence on Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker, especially the ones that didn't. Now, there's nothing wrong with not having a science degree. Not all of us are called in that direction. There's nothing wrong with that. I never held anyone's feet to the fire with that, right? You know, they're on their life. They got their professions. They're good at what they do, whatever that may be. However, whenever science is brought up, it seems that people are just swayed by it, especially the Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker. Now, they know that. They know their target audience. Most people are the Betty Breadmakers and the Joe Coffeys. That's the majority of the population. They already know that, the bastards. So they use that against them, right? So it's a nice little game they got going. And they're protected because they got the masses. You know, who's going to be listening to me when, you know, somebody brings up a scientific topic and I just expose them? You know, maybe I get a little population, maybe 200 to 500 people listening. They don't, that's nothing. That's small potatoes. They just blow that off. I don't care what you say about that. They don't care. They don't care about me. I'm not reaching anyone. They could care less. They got billions out there, right? At least hundreds of millions. I might have been exaggerating. But you see what I'm saying? So they could get, they just, all they have to do is just put out at their regularly scheduled church meetings at Wiki, or, you know, just name your website. They don't have to do much of anything because they know that they got mindless parroters that'll just talk over everyone. They don't really care. At that point, their job's done. So they're just using the masses, right? Just to squash or quash the, you know, the people that know what they're talking about. Am I still on the question, or did I just go on a rant?
No, well, I mean, it is, I would say it's mostly on topic. The second part of the question really was, so the first part was like how academia and science have become almost fused. The second part of that question is, do you think it's possible to save science from the kind of, how do I even put this, like the grubby mitts of academia?
Save science? That's a reification fallacy. Science.
You know what I'm asking.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. I'm still in the mode.
Speaking your lingo.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to define science, right? Define the science. Science is when I say science, I mean natural science. Nowadays, I do say that. I say natural science. I'm highly specific about it. Can it be saved from academia? No, it's too ingrained now. The pseudosciences, when you walk into university, over the arch of all the pseudosciences is science. So, no, you're not getting that. It's dug in like an Alabama tick. You ain't getting that out of there. Ain't no way. Not a chance. Nope. Good.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. It's concise. Very black-pilled answer, but it is concise. Yeah, I do wonder where we're all going with this. You know, if you've got I mean, you must have seen the meme. Scientists have discovered that people will believe anything if they're told a scientist discovered it.
Right.
That's kind of what inspired that question.
Right, because they know that people don't know what natural science is. You see it every day, right? You guys witness it every single day. They use science, you know, they wield it around. It's like a 3-month-old with a chainsaw, right? No one knows what the hell it is because it's so confusing. They've put out so many mixed messages, which is on purpose, by the way. And when I say they, I say the higher of the highs. They know what they're doing, man. They're not stupid, right? So they've confused everyone with the simple term, and I try to, you know, educate the ones that I have, you know, sorry for the digression, sphere of influence, and I try and try to get people, younger people, because I'm getting older now. So I've picked out certain people that I think are, you know, they're a little younger, they can think on their feet, and I've taught them so they can, you know, carry the torch or the sword or the flamethrower forward. Right? And
so these people in your sphere of influence, would you say that they're going to evolve your argument?
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot. Now, I can't stand that damn word. It's so grotesque to me. That you know what happens when the word comes up in Hangouts, because I'm stopping the discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
What is evolution?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's kind of revolting, right? So, but natural science is so easy. They've adulterated something that's very easy to understand. Natural science is very easy. It's based on experiment. Before you can get an experiment, you have to have a hypothesis. And before the hypothesis, you have to have the observed phenomena. It's just that simple. Observation of phenomena gives you the dependent variable that gives you half of the hypothesis, which is an independent-dependent variable relationship. Your independent variable is the supposition of a prediction of a natural cause and effect relationship. So the dependent variable is the effect. The independent variable is the cause. It's an educated guess. It's only a hypothesis. It's just a supposition, a predictive supposition, like I said. Right? That's all you need. And then you head to the experiment where you add control variables to it and you test it. And if you have a null hypothesis with that, we won't get into that here. But if you don't validate that hypothesis, then it's not a failure. You just learned something. That independent variable didn't cause the effect. Now you got to find another one. What is causing the effect? A lot of people talk about science. They're completely outside the category of natural science, because natural science and the scientific method only answer how, why, natural cause and effect questions. How, why questions, right? And it has to be natural. It doesn't answer what is questions. It's a complete category error. It's a non sequitur fallacy. It laughingly so. So it's really quite easy. I've had my kids come in here when they were younger, and of course they're going through junior high, and they're saying, Dad, what is an independent and dependent variable? They're confused because their teachers don't know what they are. Why is that? You tell me. I don't know. I find it preposterous. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, I'm with you on all of that.
Yep.
You know, you've always explained it very simply. I always understood it in a simple way, even before I met you. One thing I just wanted to pick up on quickly, you used the words null hypothesis. It might not be obvious to everyone listening what that is. If you could just kind of briefly explain what that is.
Yeah, null hypothesis is just like the name sounds. It's the null. It's a null is zero, or it better said, it's a zero difference hypothesis. So for every time you go through the scientific method, for every hypothesis, you have a null hypothesis and an alternative. An alternative hypothesis is more or less, this will cause that. The null hypothesis is the mirror image of that. This will not cause that. It's just that simple. Now, don't get it confused with statistical hypotheses. That's in a completely different area. That's outside of natural science. We're not concerned with that. But essentially, it's a will alternative or will not no. How about that?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for explaining that. I'm out of questions, Kai. Have you got any more questions you wanted to ask?
We can go into the last quick segment if you want to, Crypto.
Yeah, I'm ready. Did you say you'd prepared something?
Yeah, it's just since our podcast is called Why Would They Lie, I think it would be good to have a segment where we just have our guests kind of define who they think they is and why they think they would lie. With this particular case, it's discussing the shape of the Earth. So what are your thoughts, Huey?
I wasn't ready for that. I thought he was going to give me a current. He said something about a current event quiz. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've decided to cut that because I know that you're kind of, not available for an awful long time. So maybe another time.
Nah, when I used to go in the military, we used to go to boards. When I was enlisted, you had to go to promotion boards. And that was one of the sections. And as soon as you told that to me, I immediately rushed back to that. And I was like, I'm not answering any of his friggin' current event questions.
I thought that might be your attitude. So if you'd listened to some of the previous podcasts, basically what we
I have
do
not.
is...
I am sorry. I have not.
No, that's fine. I'll cut that bit out and I'll put it. I'll kind of overdub your voice saying, "Yes, I have. Yes, I have." And hopefully no one will notice that it's an overdubbing.
Well, let's get to Kai's question. I usually don't answer this question. Right? I usually don't.
I know.
It depends because I try to stay away from it. Not that it's not a good question. It's not.
Yeah.
I usually just try to tend to stay away from it, but I'll go ahead since you asked it. I'll tell you why I stay away from it because number one, it's an appeal to motive or intent fallacy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And moreover, to get away from the fallacy part of it, because I know everyone, ballers like to ask that or newbies like to ask that. They think they gotcha, right? So if you're listening out there, globies, ball tarts, spinning space monkeys, that's an appeal to motive or intent fallacy. I could really care less, right? And it's secondary or tertiary to the crime, right? We all know people lie, don't we? You've done it. I've done it. People lie. Conspiracy. This is one of those terms that got more baggage than freaking Samsonite, right? Conspiracy. Well, what is a conspiracy? At its roots, it's just two or more people that make a nefarious plan. That's really hard to believe. It's just been happening every day for the history of the world ever since there were two or more people. And the more the population rises, it's probably hundreds of thousands of times per day. It's self-evident, right? So once you get down to the root meaning of conspiracy, oh my God, you mean you can't believe this? Give me a break. With NASA, it's real easy. Money's the root of all evil. It's not only them, it's the subcontractors. They get a little racket going on. $60 million a day. Now, not only for them, but their subcontractors, right? It's a racket, like I said. Essentially, it's legalized extortion. It's just a game,
yes,
right, that they're playing. And that's fine. We can get into that part here in a second. But the overall, the number one motive is to hide the Lord Jesus Christ, the Creator, from the this is the important part, from the can't Fogomir masses. I'll say this again. To hide God from the can't Fogomir masses. That's the number one goal. If you listen to the people that are telling you, or the professions or the so-called disciplines that are telling you there is no God, it's funny. They're the same ones that are telling you you're living on a spinning space monkey religion. Huh? That's kind of a coincidence, isn't it? Yeah, because you can't have a flat, non-spinning, domed, geocentric Earth in Shangri-La. Even the can't fog a mirror people are going to say, wait a second, that's not lining up. Creator, right? See it? So I always like to give this scenario. I like this scenario. I like Bob and Victor and Alice. They use a lot of quantum mechanics, so I like to use it. So let's say we have Bob and Victor and Alice. They grew up together. They're the best of friends. Alice, she was a lovely woman. Never had a crossword with anyone in her life. She was a sweetheart. Well, Bob and Victor, their profession were special agents for homicide for 25 years. Now, these three guys still stayed together, right? They're best of friends. These homicide detectives, Bob and Victor, they get a call one day to investigate a murder. The address? Alice's house. So, these guys show up and find Alice strangled. Bob and Victor look at each other and discuss intensely who could have done this for the next 6 hours. They go through every possible motive. Who could have done this? So, after they're done, they exhaust every possible avenue of potential motive or intent. They decide, since it's completely implausible and impossible for any malicious intent against Alice, Alice isn't dead. Follow? That's why I stay away from this argument. I go right to the evidence. I could care less. I'm taking the subjective, people's opinions, their motives, their intents. I just throw them off the table. Don't need to even hear about them. I want evidence, either by demonstration, logic, or scientifically. Good answer?
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Sounds good to me. I was going to ask you the same for the Evotard. Why do you think they're lying about that?
Same reason. And it's funny that they train wreck themselves, though. Why is it always creation versus evolution? And then when I put them up against the wall, they say Evotards have nothing to do with creation. Well, that doesn't make any damn sense. In fact, most forums are labeled creation versus evolution. Why is that? And then when I put you up against the wall, you say it has nothing to do with creation. Well, what's going on here, dude? That's a little non sequitur, don't you think? So define evolution. And we'll see it has something to do with creation. Oh, and by the way, Evotards and you nitwits out there, atheists that can't even define what atheism is, by the way. You are all creationists. You just don't know it. You're not even parroting the correct pseudoscience, because your pseudoscience priests are telling you that the universe had a beginning. Why? Because it can't exist forever. That's a second law of thermodynamics violation. Not even speaking to quantum mechanics. Well, I'll just stick with the laws of thermodynamics and just pound you into submission. Right? Even your pseudoscience priests, Vilenkin, Hawkins, are telling you that. I don't even know. That's another thing that drives me absolutely nuts. What we're dealing with is like a right-wing faction that's not even parroting the correct pseudoscience. That drives me nuts. For the past 2 years, I've just been trying to get these knuckleheads to parrot the correct pseudoscience. Of course, I guess they know when they do, I'm just going to rip their guts out. Right? But it's funny, they're just like Evotards. They're not even parroting what they've been told to parrot. They're just making shit up. They are making stuff up. You guys know it. You hear it every day. They're making it up. Most people, they'll come in here, even physicists or people studying physics with the gravity nightmare, they don't even know that there's two different types of gravity. They're still on the Newtonian gravity. I'm sitting there, what? All right, what in the world? You're just like 106 years out of date with your continuing education credits. That's all. My God, get a hold of yourself. Good.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think we're basically more or less ready to wrap up.
Why?
What do you mean, why? Would you like to answer a question I haven't asked?
I mean, we can keep pulling questions out of our butts if you want, QE. I mean,
I'm just starting to heat up.
Well, I'm trying to be sensitive to your time constraints that you told me you had.
Yeah,
So
it's already trashed. Don't worry about it.
all right, fair enough. We can carry on.
Oh, another thing I'd like to bring it up, because you'll hear a lot of this, and because you get a lot of refraction, gravity, cherry picking. This is one of those evolutionist things that have migrated over to the pretender clowns and the ball-tard religion, right? They'll just say cherry pick. They'll just say a phrase for their evidence. They just a phrase. They don't know what they mean, but they sound good, and they think that covers their butt in an argument. It doesn't. These people don't even know what cherry picking is. And you'll hear it every single day. And I always catch them. Oh, well, what's cherry picking? They can't even define the damn thing. It sounds like they should be able to. It's kind of pretty easy to get that one down. But if they only knew what it meant, they wouldn't say it, because they're abject morons, right? In actual science, there is no possibility to cherry pick anything, right? The only possible way for anything to be cherry picked, within the same document, there has to be two different conclusions, right? That never happens in actual science. Where does that happen? Well, in media, in politics, in business and advertising. That's where you get this stuff. And in pseudoscience, because you always have two or more different conclusions, right? You'll never see that in an actual science document. So it is impossible. Listen up. Impossible to cherry pick anything in actual science, you numpty dipshits. But keep on begocking it. I'll keep on jacking your yard.
Do you think there are any true scientists in the spotlight right now that offer any hope? Or are they just all paid shills, essentially?
Not that I can see. Most are pseudoscientists. You'll get the astrophysicists, the astronomers, cosmology. You're not going to get too many biochemists, quantum physicists. You're just not going to get them out here. They'll stay away from it, right? Because it's more or less out of their sphere of influence for the most part. Now, that doesn't mean they won't stop giving their opinion. I just listened to a PhD in astronomy last night. It was on Helio's channel. Funny, somebody posted Helio's channel. Indio's channel. Somebody posted Indio's channel late last night in, I don't even know what forum it was. And I clicked on it, and I seen he had a title, PhD says something or other. And so I just clicked on it. It was getting late. I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he treated Flat Earth like in contempt, like science had already spoken and Flat Earth was just some fairy tale. And I looked at him and I said, God, you're lucky I'm not in the same room you're in. Yeah, it really got me pissed. Got me ready for bed. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, it looks like you guys are tiring out.
No, not at all.
Oh, no, we can keep going. Do you think, though, that if somebody were to discover, like, let's say a chemist were to discover that the Earth was flat, but he has his career, reputation at stake, have you seen anybody try to at least push the boundary a bit?
No.
To kind of, really? Wow. Okay.
No, they wouldn't do it. Number one, and this is really important too, when I first came out here, what really got my goat was, if you believe in the flat Earth, then you must deny all of science and all of physics. How many times have you heard that?
Oh, loads.
Oh,
Another one I hear all the time is that experts agree that the Earth is a globe.
Right.
Do they? That's nice.
It's a good point that you brought up. Whenever you hear agree or disagree, you're in the wrong genre. That means you should return to your cake decorating or whose favorite color is the best forms. Because that's not you, but the general you out there. Once
cool.
well, that I'm really keen on that. I'm waiting for it. Agree or disagree is subjective. No, we're into the objective, and that's science, natural science, the scientific method, empirical. I could care less about any subjectivity. It has nothing to do with the topic. Another point. Natural science has nothing whatsoever to do with whether the earth is flat or a sphere. Like I told you earlier, science, natural science, hypothesis testing, that is experiment, only deals with how and why, cause and effect questions. They're explanations. Not what is questions. Now let me ask you something out there. Is whether the earth flat or a sphere a what is question or a how why question? You can answer that yourself at home. It's a what is question. Therefore, has nothing whatsoever to do with natural science. Period. End of story. Time to clean the bathroom. Got it?
The only thing you could do, would you say, is look at cause and effect with maybe adjusting the density of water and watching the direction an egg will float? That's probably the only kind of flat Earth related thing that deals with cause and effect.
Yeah, that's an experiment. I mean, you could go through a number of them, but that really doesn't tell you whether the Earth's flat or a sphere or not, right?
True. Just, I guess, eliminates the bending and warping of space-time as the reason that things go down.
The bending eliminates. Why do we need to eliminate something that doesn't exist in the first place?
That is true.
Right? So what you got is a bunch of pretender clowns. Einstein's quote-unquote theories, both of them, special and general theory of relativity, are not actual scientific theories. To be an actual scientific theory, you're going to have validated, confirmed scientific hypotheses inside the darn papers that either happened then or before that time, right? There is no scientific experiments in either one of Einstein's quote-unquote theories. All Einstein is a philosopher with a calculator.
It was so funny because I brought this up to my grandpa and I was like, I just need to know the scientific experiment that they did, and they followed the scientific method. And he said, well, if you look up at the stars, and I was like, this has nothing to do with gravity and the bending and warping of space. Well, if you look up at the stars, and if the sun is in front, it will slightly bend the light.
What?
And I was just laughing so hard. I was like, this has nothing to do with why establishing the cause and effect of why things go down. Now you're looking at the sky.
Right.
This has nothing to do with.
It's the infamous return of refravity.
Refravity, yep. Back to the Bagox, right?
Yep.
That's another thing, the biggest thing out there right now, and it's been pretty big for a while now, is refraction, right? And you know what happens every single time refraction is brought up in my darn vicinity. I'll tell you what, boy, it's getting bad out there now. I got a lot of people not liking me for some reason. I think it's because of refraction. I don't know. Maybe you guys got a better feel for that, but refraction is... I know, so just like evolutionists, whatever they... Right? They don't know what it is. They're just parroting what they've been told. Refraction, right? Atmospheric refraction. Atmospheric refraction, the one that they're invoking, you baltards, you have to understand what it is. You're invoking terrestrial refraction. Well, to do that, you have to kind of have the two necessary conditions for atmospheric refraction to exist. There's two of them. If they don't exist, You don't have atmospheric refraction, right? Because there's different types of refraction. You got prism refraction, you got magnifying glass refraction. There's different types of refraction, just like diabetes, right? You got type 1 diabetes, you got type 2 diabetes, you got gestational diabetes. They're diabetes, they got the umbrella term for it, but they're different effects and causes. Same game here. And what they come back with, well, you're denying refraction. No. I'm denying what you think refraction is. And that is atmospheric refraction. Right off the bat, you can tell right away atmosphere is a paradox, right? They have to have curved gases. Well, gases don't curve. Gases have no inherent shape. I mean, this is first grade. I'm serious. This is first grade level understanding of gas behavior. Wait, hold on one second. I'm going to go track that down. I'm going to make sure everyone understands this is first grade. While I'm tracking it down, I can talk. I can do two things at once, as far as you know. Atmosphere,
okay, while
like
you're tracking it down, who is your favorite astronaut?
Oh, jeez. So what they got, atmospheric refraction, they got a paradox, right? Because atmo means air. Air is a gas. Sphere is a shape. The gases have no inherent shape. So what you have is a contradiction in terms, it's in the phrase. So right there, you're in big trouble. And the second condition, you have to know the radius. But you don't know that. So when you atmospheric refraction, I'm just going to jack your yard. All right, I found it. This is from Christy Bodak from Southwestern University, grade level. I will use this lesson with a first grade class. If an object is in a gaseous state of matter, it will not have a definite shape or a definite volume. So I'm right on point. If you think gas is curved naturally, then you would fail Intro to Gas Behavior first grade as an adult. So I'm just going to embarrass you. And like I said, the second thing is that you have to know the radius. You don't know it. That's how they calculate atmospheric refraction or terrestrial refraction. You can get it right from the subject matter expert, Andrew Thomas Young, San Diego State University, Astronomy Department. Terrestrial refraction. The atmosphere is also curved. Really, Andrew? As it follows the shape of the Earth. In the calculations below, we'll adopt a rough value of 6,400 kilometers as the radius of curvature to make the calculation simple. There you go. There are the two necessary conditions you need to have, and you don't got them. You're finished right there. Then, even after that, so now it's just, I'm just having fun with them now. You must invoke Snell's law. And what is Snell's law? It's the law of refraction. And what is it? Well, it's a formula used to describe the relationship between the angles of incidence and refraction. When referring to light or other waves, they got a big problem right there, but I digress. Passing through a boundary between two different isotropic media, such as water, glass, or air. Your paradox curved gases atmosphere has only one media, atmosphere. You got big problems in Shangri-La. So guess what they do? Fairy tale Andrew Thomas Young out there, he must be smoking. I want some of the shrooms he's smoking. So what they do is they take Snell's law and adulterate it. It's basically Snell and Descartes. Rene Descartes came up with it, right? Those guys got to be turning over in their graves because they remove the two different isotropic media. Obviously, they got to remove that because they know, they only have one media, right? So what they have to do, they have to remove those two media, isotropic media, and only give you one, the atmosphere. You think I'm lying? Snell's law. Back to Andrew Thomas Young, San Diego State University, Astronomy Department. Snell's law gives the quantitative change of direction of a ray of light in passing from one medium to another. So he identifies it because he knows his goose is cooked, right? He continues. The product n sine z is the same on both sides of a plane interface between two media. See, he's still on the two media, where n is the local refractive index and z is the local angle the ray makes with the normal to the interface. In the curved atmosphere, so he invokes the paradox to render Snell-Descartes law null. There it is right there. In the curved atmosphere, Snell's law becomes nr sine z equals constant, where r is the distance from the local center of curvature. See it? It's over. He's finished. Gases don't curve, Andrew Thomas Young. And you're not adulterating Snell's law. What they do, they tie it up against a friggin' tree and they just beat it about the head and shoulders with a baseball bat until it goes into submission. But they render null the entire law with that little fairy tale right there. So they're finished. It's over. Even if I give it to them, even if I give them their fairy tale refraction and Be Kind to Dumb Animal Baltard Week, even granting them that with the Married Bachelor Paradox curved gases and Booby Al Baruni's fairy tale radius value, they're still toast. Because there is no paradoxical refractive phenomena, even within their paradigm, even in their wrong definitions. There is no refractive phenomena that takes the geometric horizon and jettisons it 10 times further than it must be. It's over. You're finished. The black swan kills it.
For
Dead.
Sure. And I would say as well, though, that you know how you I hear Whitsitt say this, that space-time is a concept and you can't bend concepts.
That's correct.
However, they appear to be bending the concept of Snell's law and isotropic media quite badly.
They don't know what it is, dude. I'm telling you, whenever they say it, don't let them get away with it. Ask them to define it. Atmospheric refraction, they won't be able to do it because most are just parroting what they've been told, whether it's Wiki or one of their Baltard boyfriends. Without due diligence, they're atmospheric refraction. Yeah.
And if they bring it up, then the logical fallacy is assuming the consequent. Is that correct?
No, that's assuming the consequent. Where'd you get that from?
Well, because they're assuming that they know the radius value.
No, that's just begging. That's just a good old fashioned begging the question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm trying.
There is one more thing, though, QE. I have to say, earlier you were talking about sphere of influence. Now, I have to say to you that sphere is a shape and influence can't have a shape. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't trying to prove anything, so that's not reification. I got you. See, it's only because we use rhetorical language. You know, we reify a lot of things because it's great descriptor in telling stories and stuff. If I were to use that in trying to prove something, I'm going to stop you in your tracks. But everyone knows if we're just talking, I'm not trying to prove anything. We're just talking. I'm just giving you a little color. It's not an actual fallacy then.
Yeah, I mean, I would, yeah. It's one thing that I notice really absolutely winds me up is when people say that an insult is an ad hominem fallacy.
Oh, yeah.
When, of course, it has to apply to an argument. Otherwise, it doesn't apply, you know, and they don't get it.
Yes, ad hominem is very simple. It's insult in lieu of an actual argument. Not just an insult. It's got to be in lieu of. Very important.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
So wait, who is your favorite astronaut?
Oh God. I don't have one. I don't even I don't follow them. I don't know them. I don't know their names. I think I remember, I'm sorry, Tim Peake. He's not my favorite one. I just know the name. And Robert used to talk about the rocket equation. Who made that rocket equation? He had that name. I can see his face. He's a real doofus. I can't recall it.
We have a question from the audience. Who's your favorite astrobiologist?
Astrobiologist. That's some nonsense right there.
I do.
There is one. What the hell? I always forget it. Why I can't remember his name, because I use a lot of his work in. I can't remember his name. Because he's an astrobiologist. He's recently become one. He's a pretty famous physicist. He studied under... Man, I'm having a difficult time with names. He studied under a pretty famous astrophysicist at Cambridge. He coined Fred Hoyle. That was his thesis advisor, Fred Hoyle. He's the one that said that in the end, Fred was an atheist for most of his life. He also coined the phrase "the Big Bang" as a pejorative. He used to laugh at it, but he was a atheist for most of his life. But by the end, I think he started to waver. He was the one that said that getting life, by chance is like having a tornado run through a junkyard and it produces a 747.
Okay, I didn't realize that was the origin of that phrase. But
yeah, Fred Hoyle. Yep. And okay, I'm trying to remember his student, because he's the or recent astrobiologist. I got his name somewhere. I just can't. I can't get it. It's a common name too. That's why I'm having problems with it. I'll snatch it real quick. 1 second.
It's not going to be him. I just Googled it, but
Paul Davies.
That was definitely not the name I found.
Yeah, Paul Davies. He's with the University of Arizona Origins Project, and I think he's written some stuff on astrobiology. These guys train wreck themselves. I use them as hostile witnesses all the time, but sometimes they're pretty honest, right? And they'll just train wreck themselves without even knowing it. I can hardly believe it. I mean, this guy's an atheist, and he once said that information is the bedrock foundation of reality. Well, if you're a physicist and you say information is the bedrock foundation of reality, then can you please give me the chemical formula or structure, charge, matter, momentum, or spin, or milli, electron, volts, kcals, or kilojoules for look out, there's a tiger behind you? They can't do it because it's non sequitur fallacy, and he just train wrecked himself. So I don't know. I don't understand that these people are intelligent, but they just contradict each other with every other breath, and that just makes them great for a hostile witness for me. Love you, Professor Davies. Keep going, brother.
Now, I have a couple of false dichotomies for you. Would you rather be trapped in a room for a day with Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens?
Christopher Hitchens is worshipped by the evotards. I think I've listened to his arguments. He's a stone cold dumbass. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there. What? You worship this guy? Really? Now, he's got some charisma, and he's got a little attitude about him. He thinks I could get him through. That just makes me focus more. Now, he is not recently, he's passed away, so I'm not going to talk about him too much. But that gentleman was a stone cold dumbass. Richard Dawkins, he's just a pretender clown. I wouldn't want to be near him. I'd have to get like wire brush showers afterwards. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Neither.
So you haven't answered the question. If you had to be trapped in a room for a day with one of them, which one would you choose?
That's a loaded question, man.
I know. I was hoping you'd answer it.
If Hitchens was alive, I'd choose Hitchens.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I would say that I don't know if the audience is aware of this, but John P. Ryan's pointed out that Christopher Hitchens was probably not the first person to come up with this kind of thought paradigm, but he coined Hitchens' razor.
Yes,
which I'm actually quite grateful for. So I would say he's not stone cold dumbass. He was capable of moments of excellence.
Oh, the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and again, sir. A clock, a broken clock is right at least twice a day. Military clock only once.
Indeed.
Follow?
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
That's a great quote. The sun shines on a dog's ass once in a while.
It's right. Yeah, he's
tuck that one away.
For the most part, because I've listened to a lot of his debates, and that's how I know. Hitchens' razor is. I agree with it. Right? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Something to that effect. Correct?
Yeah, what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Ah, that's it. Yes. Yes. Agree.
Yeah. Awesome. So the next question is, would you rather be stuck in a room with Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah. They're the same person to me. Oh, man. I think Neil's more popular. So I'd like to mule kick him. Neil.
Could you explain to me exactly how this mule kick would look?
Yeah, it would be a literal mule kick.
So you would actually hire a mule just to kick
No. I'd get on my hands, right? And then give it to him right in the friggin' chest.
And obviously I have to ask this one. Would you rather be stuck in a room for 24 hours with Zanuck or Gem Panda?
No, I refuse to answer that. Someone's dying.
Someone's dying?
Oh, yeah. Something's they ain't getting out of there alive. It might be me. I'll tell you what. I'm going out. I'll tell you, you're not going to be unblemished. No, that's an unfair question, man. Come on, you're getting silly now.
Of course it is. That's the point of the question, is that it's unfair.
Yeah, I'm not taking false dichotomies. They're not false dichotomies. You're just only giving me two choices.
Yeah. No, but then... Oh, I don't want to get into an argument or false with you. I can give you a third choice if you want.
No.
You don't want me to throw Kosho in the mix?
No, oh God.
What about Brenda?
Oh, come on, man. No, neither. Let's get to some meat.
Yeah, sure. You guys are going to have to do the rest without me. 3 a.m. where
we could wrap it up because you guys are sucking wind.
Sorry?
You guys are sucking wind. I could see you heaving in the background. So let's just wrap it up, man. It was good. It's an hour and 45 minutes, a little bit over.
Yeah, a bit more than I was expecting, actually. Yeah, so thank you. Quantum, it's been a lot of fun. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground that we normally do and a lot of new ground as well, which is really cool. And yeah, just appreciate it.
I just wanted to say, as a new flat earther, I'm really grateful for you, QE. You've used your bullhorns to pave the way for us. Taken a lot of heat, but you've done a lot of the work, and your videos, your lectures in 24/7 have given me the confidence to debate people I never thought I would be debating. So just really thankful for you and your work that you've done in the community. So yeah.
Well, that was very nice. You're very welcome.
I see through the big bad wolf. So I appreciate what you've done for us.
And I would say, just before we wrap up, if you guys listening, either live or on the podcast, if you haven't been listening to QE Quantum Erasers numpty clips, please do. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot to be learned as well, but mostly they're a lot of fun. So
I'd like to speak to that.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak to those, if you would.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. The numpty clips are on my channel, Quantum Eraser channel. They're a playlist. You can go into the playlist. There's about 32 or 33 right now, somewhere around there. They'll be over 100 sooner than later. They run every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday on my channel, Quantum Eraser channel, at 2 p.m. U.S. Central, 7 p.m. UK. And I think a lot of people think that they're just, how would I say, like a thumb in the nose or a thumb in the eye of baltards just making fun of them. It may seem that way on the outside, superficially, but they're not. I'm trying to make them the crown jewel of my channel, and it's for very good reasons. Number one, it gives you the trench level arguments that are out there that the globetards are bringing to the table. It lets you know what their arguments are. And number two, and most importantly, I go through and step by step deconstruct every single one of their fallacious train wreck belly laugher arguments for you. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is sit back and listen over and over and over. Yeah, I do take a little liberties with some of my guests and employ certain flair with artistic license, but most of the subjects are dry. So you'll afford me that. I'd appreciate it. But make no mistake, I think they're one of the best flat earth proofs, maybe for not somebody brand new, but somebody maybe in the 3-6 month time frame to head right to the numpty clips. And if you're on the fence and you're thinking or considering getting on the Globe Baltard team, this is going to definitely make sure that you're not on that team.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think probably my favorite part, apart from the deconstruction of the arguments, are the laugh tracks that you use. Would you be able to go through a few of the laugh tracks you use?
Yeah, I'm expanding my repertoire. But like I said, it's only my pieces of flair to make it a little bit more enjoyable. But don't lose sight of the fact that these are educational. Everything I do is for the educational component. You'll see that I'll try to stay away from the drama. I'm not a drama queen. I don't like that stuff. I try to stick. That was one of my mission goals when I first come out here, and the goal of my channel, to educate. Right? This is just one of the vehicles I use for that. It's funner than just straight presentations. This is real hands-on stuff, and you'll get a lot out of them. I promise you. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah. Kai, have you got any last words before we wrap up?
No, just thank you, QE, for joining our podcast. We greatly appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. I'd like to come back again.
Yeah, you'd be more than welcome.
Yes. We got to do the quiz next time.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully it doesn't give you too many...
a beer may be a necessary antecedent, so...
Fantastic. Okay, well, thanks again. And yeah, let's... Oh, here we go.
Why would they lie? 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 Why would they lie?